Well, the lack of complete trust or the lack of sufficient trust between government and business on one hand, between business and labor on the other hand, and I will even argue between labor and government on the other hand, is a major concern. And we can attribute some of the loss of competitiveness of our economy to precisely this issue, mistrust. We believe that it's one of those issues that must be addressed very quickly if we're to get this country going. And one of the objectives will be to focus on getting broad-based entities which include labor or employees, which include communities or cooperatives, to be beneficiaries of the transformative legislation, to ensure that when we talk about ownership, they also are looked at as rightful and deserving beneficiaries, to enhance this kind of trust in the system. There is absolutely no doubt that the fact that government sometimes sees its responsibility as primarily to create jobs, even if the key people in government will from time to time say theirs is to create an enabling environment. But you see inconsistency, especially when it comes to certain ministers who think that their role as government is to become the primary player, and if not the only player in the economy, and emasculate the private sector out of their core area of operation. This further creates mistrust. And I think you'll see that the pace of implementation of projects which the private sector is very much interested in, that they must be rolled out very quickly so that will create jobs, so that will grow their businesses. Again, further entrenches this sense of mistrust, that the private sector believes that the government does not think they are a critical player in the space where they believe they are indeed a critical player. So there's got to be a lot of work to be done in terms of enhancing this trust. I think the fact that government is down this path of a developmental state or a capable state, and they believe that their role is more than just creating an enabling environment or developing infrastructure, but also is to create jobs and to be involved in even in those areas which were traditionally not confined to government, creates a mistrust, and something ought to be done about that. There's no doubt. Well, when you talk to key players in the mining industry, they will say, we think we've done enough. We think we've done empowering transactions, and we think our industry is a leader in terms of embracing transformation. Why are we being asked to do more? So there's a sense of resignation that, look, the goalposts are being shifted all the time. And on the other hand, government believes you have not done enough. If you had done enough, there would be no Marikana to talk about, because you'll have built houses. You'll have ensured that people who work in the depth of where you extract minerals live in environments or in spaces which are world-class or which are humane environments. It will not have taken Marikana to expose the fallacy. So these are two schools of thought. The mining industry believing we've done enough, government saying, no, you have been shamed because you have not done enough, and labor even making their own excessive demands, wanting to be paid beyond, call it, viability effectively. So again, it talks to this issue of mistrust among the key stakeholders. They are working cross purposes, and they are working and pushing in different directions. The interests of South Africa Incorporated don't seem to be at the center of their collective thinking. Something ought to be done. Our belief is that the mining industry is not sufficiently transformed. And that's why even the whole issue of mining is a playground of emerging political players, simply because it's a highly contested issue. It's an industry whose outcomes and successes are debatable, left, right, and center. Who owns the large mining houses? The fact that they are mainly domiciled outside of South Africa itself is a bone of contention. There may be nothing wrong with that. We're a member of the globalized economy. There may be nothing wrong with it. But if they are doing sufficient or doing very well in other areas, the issue of who owns what may easily be ignored, may not suddenly take and assume prominence because they are delivering elsewhere. But if you're not delivering elsewhere, then every step you take becomes subjected to scrutiny. So my view, quite frankly, is that in the mining space, a lot has to be done. The mining charter may need to be reviewed, as all charters and all pieces of legislation are subject to continuous review to see as to their efficacy and effectiveness in terms of serving the interests of South Africa. But at the moment, I'm afraid it's a fail.